Right, let's start here. Sean Diddy Combs has been found guilty of prostitution-related offences, but has been cleared of more serious charges after a criminal trial in which two of the music mogul's former girlfriends testified that he physically and sexually abused them. Combs was convicted of transportation to engage in prostitution, but acquitted of a racketeering conspiracy and 2 counts of sex trafficking. A partial win for the former billionaire, known for relevating hip-hop in American culture. After the jury read its verdict, Combs' defense lawyer asked that he be released on bail. Now, Combs faces a maximum of 10 years prison sentences on each of the 2 prostitution counts.
Doctor, what was it like being in the courtroom testifying today?
All right, also that what we are chasing for you in the U.S., the feud between Donald Trump and Elon Musk has been reignited, with the U.S. president suggesting the South African-born billionaire should head home. It comes after the tech businessman threatened to form a new political party and challenge Republican lawmakers running for re-election. Of course, let's talk about what is happening in the U.S. For more on this, let's now cross to SABC News correspondent Sherwin Bryce Pease, who is live for us in Washington, D.C. Sherwin, a very good afternoon to you. So a number of developing stories there coming from the United States. But perhaps let's start with the feud between President Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Well, it's kind of been there, seen that, and done that, right? It seems to be repeating on us, this feud between the U.S. president and billionaire Elon Musk. And it comes at a time when we are very close to that very key signature spending legislation of President Donald Trump, what he has referred to, Unati, as his big, beautiful bill, passing the Senate by a single vote that was cast by the vice president due to a 50-50 split in the Senate. J.D. Vance having to arrive on Capitol Hill yesterday to pass that deciding vote, which means the legislation that originated in the House of Representatives was passed there by a slim majority, went to the Senate for a number of weeks, has then been reconciled and then sent back to the House, where it now sits for final approval by the House of Representatives. Still remains tenuous in terms of getting over the finish line. And why this feud has erupted again is because Elon Musk has taken to social media, has again criticized this bill, called it insane, threatened, as you have well pointed out, the making of a new political party. The American Party, I think, is the name of a future possible party that could see Elon Musk, sort of pushing this forward. And again, irritating the U.S. president, that was asked if he might deport Elon Musk. Elon Musk, of course, becoming a naturalized U.S. citizen in 2002. So it remains sort of a gray area as to how you would sort of deport a U.S. citizen, whether they were born here or naturalized. Your rights as a citizen tend to be the same. So they would have to find some sort of criminal act, perhaps, that could impugn his ability to stay, which in itself seems tenuous. But of course, you're dealing with the richest man in the world that who would be able to put up a very strong legal defense if that were to become the case. Donald Trump, of course, also, Unati, as you well know, threatening government subsidies. As you well know, Elon Musk has a number of companies, among them Tesla and SpaceX. SpaceX, of course, fundamental to how the federal government is able to fuel and supply the International Space Station. So it seems dubious as to where we could go here, but certainly the 2 principals, the 2 very wealthy, powerful individuals at each other's throats again over the passage of this bill that in and of itself, is going to be closely watched if it can get over the finish line in the House of Representatives.
And of course, Sherwin, as you rightfully point out, the big story of the day is the Combs case. Sean Diddy Combs, convicted of a number of charges, found guilty of prostitution-related offences. He has been cleared of more serious charges, though, after a criminal trial in which 2 of those music moguls' former girlfriends testified that he physically and sexually abused them. A huge story that many Americans and, of course, the world has been monitoring very closely.
Yeah, so let's break it down. Let's tell you what we know. This is, of course, the breaking news out of the federal court downtown here in Manhattan. Sean Diddy Combs found guilty on 2 of the 5 counts by that New York jury, but as you well pointed out, Inati has been acquitted on the most serious counts. He was convicted on the 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, but was acquitted on the biggest charge here in terms of the possibility of facing life imprisonment, which was the racketeering conspiracy charge, and then 2 counts of sex trafficking, which each could have raised a penalty of up to 15 years in prison. So he's avoided the possibility of life in prison, but still could face up to 10 years in prison on each of the transporting for prostitution charges. The jury delivered its verdict, as you well know, after more than 2 days of deliberations and after a 7-week trial that laid bare Combs' sexual abuse of women, including, as you mentioned, Deonati, 2 former girlfriends, and of course his drug-infused so-called freak-off parties. The end of the trial was seen, of course, now as a partial win for the music mogul, who was known for elevating hip-hop in American culture. Reports from inside the courtroom say Combs was on his knees in the courtroom after that verdict with his head down in his chair, presumably praying after avoiding the life imprisonment charge, which was had the highest count here. His family, we understood, stood in the background clapping and cheering. The lawyers hugged the defense lawyers. He then hugged one of his defense lawyers. And the defense petitioned the judge to release Combs on bail. Of course, it will take a number of weeks now until we get to sentencing. So he's still guilty on those 2 transportation in terms of prostitution charges that he could face up to 20 years in prison. But in the interim, the defense is asking the judge to release him on bail. The prosecution has countered. They say he should remain behind bars, and they will make that case to the judge later this afternoon here. So we could get a decision from the judge as to whether Combs remains in prison awaiting his sentencing, which could be weeks away, or if in the interim he might be released. So a split decision here. He still faces up to 20 years in prison, but there will be some relief within the Combs camp that he now avoids the life imprisonment charges and the up to 30 years that the sexual trafficking counts could have brought to bear in terms of his time behind bars, Unati.
Sean, thank you so much for that update. Of course, Sean Bryce-Peace, our U.S. correspondent, live for us in Washington with that breaking news story coming out there. Sean Diddy Combs has been found guilty of prostitution-related offences. And, of course, as Sean has pointed out, after the jury read its verdict, Combs' defense lawyer asked that he be released on bail. Combs faces a maximum of a 10-year prison sentence on each of the 2 prostitution counts.